So, welcome everyone to Thursday meditation. Let's start by sitting up comfortably. Maybe check out the body, see if anything wants to be stretched or twisted, maybe arched back or curled forward. And I want to start by sharing a discovery that I made the other day. Um, I mentioned this on a couple of you heard this. I mentioned this on Tuesday. I was actually in a hot tub and I discovered something that maybe everyone else in the world has known this all along, and I just came late to the party. I just realized this the other day, which is that if you're submerged in water, and I would assume this would also work in a swimming pool or in a bathtub, but if you're completely submerged in water, and then if you really fill your lungs very completely, when you really get them filled up, you start to rise out of the water. You become more buoyant. Makes perfect sense. And you exhale. If you exhale very completely, you start to sink. Yeah, Tejas, you gotta. No, okay. Um, so isn't that interesting? And what I discovered was, oh, this is really fun because it gives me an instant feedback system to tell me that, oh, I'm really filling up my lungs, or oh no, they're not quite full. What do I have to do to? Oh yeah, because filling up your lungs involves um, it's really a three-dimensional thing. It's spreading the ribs this way and spreading them, right, left and right, opening them left and right, opening them front and back. And the third one, which is rather subtle, is expanding vertically, right? And I don't think anyone can tell you how to do that, but you have to, if you feel it out, there's all kinds of subtle musculature and so forth involved. But I really recommend this. Get in some water, get up to your neck in some water and do that and feel, okay, what do I have to do to really, and you start to rise up and you start to sink down. I guess the other moral of the story is if you fall overboard, breathe in, don't breathe out. Um, so let's start by sitting comfortably and uh, let's just imagine we're in water, okay? And just feel out what you need to do to really fill your lungs and really mobilize all those muscles. Spread your ribs in three dimensions, like as if they're slats of wood glued to the surface of a balloon, right? And the whole balloon gets blown up as you inhale. And just feel how that could make you rise a few inches out of the water. And then that's through your nose. And then open the mouth, exhale. Empty the lungs as much as you can. Contract your abdominals to really push the last ounce of air out of you so that, see how deep you sink into the water. And just continue to do that. Do that on your own time, please. And when you get to the maximum point of the inhale, stay there for a few moments. Enjoy the buoyancy. And when you get to the end of the exhale, stay there for a few moments. Enjoy the density. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. If you're sitting on some kind of seat or chair or stool, as I am, check how the angle of your thighs to each other. Try to have your thighs at least at a 90-degree angle to each other, and the feet a little bit forward of the knees. And notice how that helps you expand and contract your ribs. If your eyes are still open, you can let them close and do a few more of these breaths. Without straining, try to make the in-breath long and the out-breath even longer. So after you finish your next out breath, just let the breath return to normal. Just let the breath take care of itself. Let everything take care of itself, as it so nicely does. The breath works perfectly without our interference, without our supervision. The senses work beautifully without our supervision, without our helping. We hear sounds, feel sensations. The mind and emotions work perfectly, work beautifully without any supervision. This or that feeling comes and goes, this or that thought comes and goes. All this beautiful automatic machine. Everything's set on auto. Set it and forget it. So in the middle of all this automaticness, this beautiful situation of everything taking care of itself, we just rest. You just flop back in the hammock of natural awareness. On vacation. Off duty at last. School is out forever. Nothing to do but relax back into awareness as it presents itself. Nothing to modify, nothing to adjust. Nowhere to get, no way to get there. We're in the hammock. We're in the hammock of present awareness. We're not going anywhere else. Not trying to control anything. Not trying to change anything. Not trying to keep anything the same. That's all way above our pay grade. We're just hammock bums. Flops back on the hammock of just being. Relaxing back into our own awareness, which as always is perfectly empty, no matter how much it's filled with stuff, just like space. The nature of space is emptiness, openness. No matter how many objects or planets it's filled with. So lying here on the hammock of just being, we can relax back into this eternally, effortlessly empty, open, space-like nature of our own awareness. Within which everything else comes and goes frictionlessly. Frictionlessly. Nothing to figure out, nothing to remember, nothing to maintain, no attitude or perspective or angle of, you know, meditative angle or anything, nothing to maintain. Maybe check, take a quiet look, see if is there something you're trying to maintain? And if so, just let it all collapse. Let it all implode. Let it all implode into that textureless space, that space with no texture, no density, no flavor, no anything. That space of your own awareness, your own beingness. That needs no help. Nothing we can do for it. All we can do is throw stuff into its cool flames. And then rest in the freedom that remains. Just being. Nothing else. That's simple. Just being. And take a few minutes to ease the body out before you open the eyes. Okay. How's everybody doing? Oh, good. Any observations tonight? Yes, please, Mara.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dean.
Hi.
So I've noticed, Dean, that most times when we meditate together, you ask us to do a self-check for what we think we should be doing, what we think is meditative, quote unquote. Am I saying that right? That you do that? You agree?
It's not exactly the words that I use. I'm not sure you're saying what I'm saying, so say a little more about it.
Okay.
What I do is I don't always do this, but I often will do this. I'll invite you at some point, and usually after we're 2/3, 3/4 somewhere in,
Yeah.
to check and notice if there's something that you're doing to be meditating,
Okay.
and if so, let that go. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
Something that you're going to stop doing when I hit the bell. Stop doing it now.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it would be interesting maybe to share what those things are that I catch myself doing, and feel
Great,
free to comment or not on one or all of them.
great.
So there are three things I've caught myself doing. One is
Hmm.
uh, doing a body scan and trying to relax all my muscles, maybe with the exception of my back, which I try to maintain somewhat straight. So
Hmm.
that's one thing I do. And then a second thing I do is I do a kind of temperature check of what I'm feeling, just to notice, because I am thinking about that awareness piece, resting in awareness. So I think of
Hmm.
awareness as being cognizant of what I'm feeling, what emotions or thoughts might be going through me. And then the third thing I do is I catch myself feeling a kind of pressure to be thankful, appreciative of the moment.
Okay, now these, I'm a little confused. Now, these three things that you're describing,
Yeah.
are you saying that these are things that you deliberately do in response to my instruction, or these are things that in response to my instruction, you look and you realize you've been doing them, you catch yourself doing them?
The latter.
The latter. Okay, good, good. Because if you'd been doing all that, deliberately doing all that stuff, thinking on my say so, then that would mean I'd been very unclear. Okay.
No, no, no.
Okay. Good. Good. Uh huh. Yeah. All that stuff is just so busy,
Okay.
right? And I totally get that in some other context of some other practice, some other teaching, if you're coming in cold, someone might tell you, or you might get from a book or figure out yourself, oh man, if I really pay attention and relax all my muscles and maybe keep my back a little straight, and if I check out all my emotions and so forth, there's some value in that. Great. Absolutely. It's not, they're not dumb things to do, but what we're doing here is simpler. And so yeah, absolutely. Whatever you're seeing yourself doing, and the very next time we do this, you might notice you're not doing any of that, or you might be doing some whole other thing, right? So we don't even have to have a set idea of, oh, these are the things I habitually do. Who the hell knows?
Okay.
Is that
Thanks.
good? Good. Okay. And but what you're doing here in articulating those is very valuable for the sangha, for the group, because as you say, then it might be valuable. Other people hear that, and sometimes when someone else articulates, they realize, oh yeah, I've been doing that. Sometimes the things that we just take the most for granted, we don't even realize. Well, of course, everyone would do that, and no, I don't have to do that. I can throw that into the fire. Yeah, throw anything that can be thrown into the fire. You throw it into the fire. So great, good, thank you. Good. What else tonight? Uh, Wait, someone's hand just went up. Who was that?
Peter.
Peter. There you are. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Uh, so just
Peter, I
quick
always
thing.
love your lighting. I always feel like you're in a David Lynch film or something.
It's almost a totally darkened room with just the light coming in through the window and what's coming out from the computer. and it's an old computer, so it's really ancient and gives this sort of gradient or weird sort of
I want to
look.
drop in on you in New Jersey and find out there's actually no light in that room. That's all your divine radiance.
That's all it's radiating out of me. That's right.
Yeah.
So in doing the breathing, it was just I was noticing how it was going, and it seemed like when I took the breaths in, it arose from like a depth, and then it went to kind of like the middle of my lung. I won't say lungs, but the middle, and
Hmm.
then it kind of filled up the rest of whatever was there, right? So there was this intake, just felt completely natural, like it came from the bottom into the middle, up to
Hmm.
the top, and just holding that. And then releasing that was almost the exact opposite, I would say, kind of like just sort of like some sort of ventilator, if you can imagine that sort of opening and rising, sort of.
Yep.
So just from top down to mid, down to bottom, all the way down to bottom, and then just kind of holding and
Hmm.
being there. And at the top, holding and being there, and at the bottom, holding and being there, which was really cool. I really thought it was a nice practice.
Breathing is bliss. You know, you if you really pay attention to it, breathing is just delightful. It's just about as much fun as you could ever want to have if you pay attention to it. And so so much cheaper than and with so fewer side effects than other ways people try to have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, I can see that, and it's like just quite natural. It's
Yeah.
and it's really just kind of letting it happen the way that it happens is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It's natural. I mean, you make a very good point because it's natural, but what for a lot of people, probably for most of us, although this kind of full, yummy breathing is natural, for a lot of us, it may not be habitual, you know, because we get into habits of our breathing being more constricted. Actually, it's analogous to, you know, what we call enlightenment, awakening. People think of it as something exotic, something extra, some extra whipped cream on top of the 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 hot fudge sundae of life, when actually it's the most natural thing in the world. My teacher Maharishi used to say this all the time. He'd say enlightenment is just normal human life. And we would all go, oh, yeah, yeah, right, right, right. Easy for him to say. But, you know, some few years of practice under our belt, oh, yeah, I see what he's talking about. It's just natural. It's normal human life. So, you know, we get in the habit of our awareness being constricted, of not noticing the full range, the full glory, the full natural boundlessness of our awareness. So, same kind of thing with the breathing.
hmm. Yeah, it really does seem like we're very distracted from by everything, and sometimes not to be distracted, or perhaps just the natural way of being is settling into non-distraction, sort of just being there, and just a completely different, not different, but something we don't. It's not what we look at normally. It's not what we're told to follow or pursue. In fact, we're told to follow and pursue everything but that sort of, the simplest, basic, what's already there in front of your face sort of a thing. But no, don't.
Hmm.
That's no. Go for everything else. Everything, do this and do that and do this and do this, and you sort of just trying to grab onto these things and thinking that they're going to hold and do something, and then
Yeah.
they're gone and they're not there. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. Well,
it's
there's a
forever.
generally all those other things you're being encouraged to devote your attention to are things that someone else is going to make money on it, or you know, get some, or increase their power, or their enhance their ego, or something. And you know, I mean, so you know, if we all figure out we can be just endlessly entertained by our own breathing, then you know that's not good for business for, you know, Hulu and Netflix. everyone else. Not that there's anything wrong with, just watched a couple of really nice movies on Netflix last week. So, but
The other thing.
but let me just say on this point also that when we do pay some attention to it, where that's all we're paying attention to for a few minutes, then also when we return to the world of all these other things that we have to pay attention to, there's relationship and there's work and there's domesticity and there's all just the business of life. Go on the green, stop on the red. That all takes attention. But having spent a few minutes just paying attention to breathing in this full, delicious way, some of it is going to carry over. To some degree, every minute that we spend breathing in this full way is weakening our old habits of constricted breathing. So there's going to be some carryover. So maybe, we're paying attention to the traffic. You're driving in, the usual congested New Jersey traffic as you have to. But then when you're sitting at the red light, there's nowhere to go. You might just notice without doing anything about it. Oh, my resting breathing here is, it's fuller than it was before. It's nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you had another point?
Yeah, just noticing after the breathing and sort of being in the space of awareness, just how thoughts just come up so spontaneously and from absolutely nothing. And they can be so random, or they can have some tiny little trigger here or something there. It's just really, I'm not usually aware of it. It's just happening. It's just happening. But when you really start to pay attention, you realize how they just really appear like magic. They are, and then boom, gone, and there's another one, boom, boom, boom. And why? And there doesn't seem to be really much of a why, like a real why. They just sort of happen, and then some more happen, and some more. Maybe there's something else going on in your life that maybe the same thought comes up more often because you got something going on.
Yeah.
Or whatever, but really literally arising from nothing and spending its little bit of time, whatever that is. And guess what? It's the next one comes along. Let's get out of the way. I'm taking over now.
And the next. You ever have this, Peter, or anyone in the group, you ever have this happen during the day, let's say? You're in the middle of doing something, and suddenly a totally random memory, like some scene from your past, comes back. I've had this happen where I'll get something like the entrance to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, the 19th Street and Irving Avenue, I think it is. That one comes up every once in a while for me. And then that's from when I lived in San Francisco in 1966, right? And this stuff comes up. So, to try to track, why did this one come up? A, is impossible, and B, if you could, what would you do with that knowledge? Mm-hmm. I've sometimes encountered, often it'll be like a psychotherapist when they first go on a meditation retreat, and they have their notebook, and they want to start, keep making notes, journaling on all the stuff that comes up in their meditation. And, sometimes I have to do a little extra talking with them to get them to, no, just put that notebook away till the retreat's over. Just just assume that the nervous system is purifying itself. Old stuff is going to come up. And if we start trying to sort it all, it's kind of like we're sitting in a bathtub and we're getting cleansed. And to go, oh, wait a minute, this bit of dirt that's floating into the water now, that came from under my fingernails from when I was working in the garden. And this bit here, oh, that's the grime from behind my collar. That A, it's impossible. B, it's a waste of time. See, if it accomplishes anything, it's just going to slow the thing down. You just let that stuff go down the drain. Now, sometimes people will say, "Oh, but what about mindfulness?" Mindfulness being and mindfulness is not particularly my specialty. My specialty is mindlessness. Um, but so it's not my specialty as a practitioner or as a teacher, but it's a valid practice. Can be a very deep practice where okay, you're being and it goes all the way back to the Buddha. The Buddha called it satipatthana. Satipatthana, what's now in English called mindfulness. And it's like being aware of thoughts as thoughts. Being aware. Those of you who were with us on Tuesday, someone had the big epiphany. It's just a thought. Oh, that was that girl Summer. It's just a thought. It's not me, right? So that being aware of that of thoughts as thoughts, being aware of feelings as feelings, being aware of sensations as sensations. That's mindfulness. Um, but people very commonly misunderstand the point of mindfulness. They think the point of it is the content of what we're mindful of. Oh, we're going to find out about this thought, this sensation. We're going to expand our knowledge by becoming mindful of them. That's not the point. The point is not the stuff we're mindful of. It's what happens to us as a result of being mindful of it, which is that we discover exactly as Summer did on Tuesday, oh, that stuff's not me. That's just stuff coming and going within the beingness, the awareness. I'm the beingness, I'm the awareness. Okay? One other thing, I want to get back to Mara, what you were saying um, uh, about putting attention on the different parts of the body, or it could be what I was just saying, being mindful of this, mindful of that. I want to add one more note on that, which is that as an on ramp into our meditation, any of that could be fine. Any of that could be fine. We're running around in the world doing all this stuff, being engaged in all this, complex, multifarious input and output. And so then to sit down and go from doing 10,000 things to doing one thing, almost any one thing, almost doesn't matter what the thing is. So it could be paying attention to our breathing, making us more buoyant and then more dense, or we could be paying attention to a sound, or paying attention to the different parts of the body. That all could be a lovely on-ramp. But don't get stuck on the on-ramp.
Okay.
You're on the on-ramp for a couple of minutes, then get into the express lane, and the express lane is just being.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's the perspective that I'm at in this point in my life, and that seems to be helpful. I know it's helpful to me. Seems to be helpful to people, because there are people who spend their lives on a freaking on ramp, and anything, singing mantra. You all know I love singing mantra. I do it every day, but that's that's singing that sound. That's an on ramp into the silence.
Thanks.
You bet. Good. What else tonight?
Uh, I'll share, Dean.
Yes, please.
So I had a minor epiphany last night that it's like you're saying, I guess to relate it to the meditation, it's like we're letting go of, or as you say, relaxing the grip of whatever's there, and that's the process. That's as simple as it gets. And I had a minor epiphany last night where I realized that I know this, that relaxing the grip, I know how it feels like. I know that it's simple, and yet I still hold on to certain beliefs. And it's like these beliefs, they're so encoded into my thoughts, into my being, that it's like it's like, you know, they're in plain sight and I'm still blind to them. And so my epiphany was that I can let go of that. I don't and it sounds so simple. I'm like astounded, because I feel like it's a it's I guess that's what's so astounding about it. It's like I said, it's like it's all hiding in plain sight. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right there, and
Yeah.
all I have to do is
Yeah.
see it. I finally
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. That is so beautiful, Tejas. Once you see it and you go, I mean, to me, this stuff is always, this is like the Homer Simpson moment. This is the don't, right? You know, how did I miss it? Right? How did I miss it? And the thing is, once you see it, you're done. Once you see it, then there isn't even, okay, now I see it, now I got to get to work letting it go. No, what it's like, you know, once you see you've been having this dream, you know, it's just a dream. It's already evaporating. Yeah, it's thank God, you know. This is in Tibetan tradition. When someone has this kind of epiphany, this is, you say imaho. It's
Imaho.
Yeah, EMAHO. That's like that. Yeah, that's like in soccer. Goal.
Yeah. And quite poignantly, those beliefs were to do with struggle.
Yeah.
And this, I feel that I've held on to this deep belief that the only thing worthwhile in life is through struggle.
Yeah.
And imagine letting go of that.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
I mean, totally something that would be kind of hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Because, you know, because then every moment of my life is struggle. And so that's where it's hiding. I think that the struggle is something I need to figure out, when really it's just something I'm making up all along.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, this is, you just made my day, Tejas. Really.
I'm so glad.
That's just beautiful. That's just beautiful. You know, I had a similar thing with this lama, this wacky lama from Wales that I studied with for a few years, Ngak'chang Rinpoche. He was a character. He wrote incredible poetry, Westerner, who, you know, discovered at a certain point in his life that he was supposedly a rebirth of a Tibetan Lama of a couple of generations, and he kind of started recovering all his memories. Really interesting character. But I was at a teaching that he gave, and he said one sentence, and I don't even remember the whole sentence. I just remember one phrase from the sentence, because that was what I needed. And the phrase was addiction to intensity. Addiction to intensity. And the moment I heard that, I was like, whoa, that was the whack on the side of the head. Because I realized that that was what was hiding in plain sight for me. That was the unspoken assumption, was that what we want, what we need, what the highest, what it all comes to is the most intensity of everything, of experience. Right? And that's just a made up thing. And it's a lot of work to try to find and maintain all that, you know, intensity. And one of the ways we know when we discover one of these big, you know, giant chunks of bullshit that we've been living our life based on, that is that once we see it and relax our grip on it, suddenly everything feels like much less work. Because it's a lot of work maintaining something that's, as you say, made up. We have to work at keeping that dream going. that fever dream. you know, you know, it's like when you see people. If you ever see people in the waiting room of a doctor's office or a dentist's office, they're waiting to go in for a root canal or waiting to go in and get the results of their MRI or something, so they can understandably be tense about it. And you see the way they're sitting, and you see, or people in an airplane, especially when the plane is taking off, you'll see some people, they're like gripping the sides, as they say, they're trying to drive the plane, and you want to say to them, or at least I want to say to them, now, come on, darling, you don't have to do it. Just relax. Just sit back. And of course, you can't do that. You'll get in trouble. But that's what we're doing here. We're recognizing that we're doing that and going, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. It's so much work. I can do this, and I'm still sitting in the chair. It's just less. It's just a lot more fun. It's just more space. That's how you can tell you're on the nature of truth is that it's less work, more space. And if you try to explain this to people that haven't experienced it, then what? Right?
Oh, part of me is still saying, what?
Yeah. Can you trust this? Can you trust this guy? Can you let go of this whole thing that you've invested so much time and so much worry in? Can you let it go without exploding? And right?
Can you let it go? Exactly. That's
right?
Exactly what I've been experiencing.
Yeah. If you let it go, can you let it go? If you let it go, will you, die or get pregnant or something?
Yeah. No,
yeah.
It's the only thing I can relate what you're saying to now is something else that I've been reading about, which is that fear of death, that primal fear of death. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that belief, if I let go of it, a part of me will die. That's literally what it seems like to me. Like unless I hold on for dear life to this belief, something in me will die and it'll be bad. And yet,
And yet here you are. Yet here you're still living. Again, I can reach into your Zoom square there, take your pulse. Yeah, you're still living, right? All right. Yeah, it does. But that's a brilliant perception, Tejas, that, it feels like something in me will die, like I will die. And from this, now you can understand firsthand from your own experience how the world, why so much of the world is the way it is, why people get so dug into these beliefs. This election was stolen, when there is, logically, that makes no freaking sense, right? No. It was thrown out of every court of law where it was, adjudicated, right? It makes no sense. And yet people, they become, because that belief becomes the definition of their self. It's a false definition, of course. It's a dream definition. But what they've conceived of as themselves is that. And therefore, they will literally fight to the death. They will resist, right? They'll die rather than take a vaccination if their belief system, which is they're identified with, tells them that, though, that's part of the evil conspiracy or something. And we're getting this played out on this huge, national, to some extent, global level now. Right? So, yeah, it's great. And just, and then it becomes exciting and fun. How much can I let go of and I'll still sitting here? Haven't died yet. Right? And then we come back and look what has enabled this. What has enabled this? Just sitting here doing this completely dumb process, non-intellectual, non-emotional, right, just this dumb process of sitting and relaxing back into our own awareness. That creates some, gives us some space, some time. You've logged enough time where you're not actively supporting, keeping that dream going, that it gets loosened up. And then you can come back to it when your eyes are open and go, wait a minute, the relationship with it's loosened up enough that you can see, oh, maybe I can continue to let go of this thing, right? This thing, which, by the way, there are multiple times a day that you've completely let go of it, but you're not paying attention to that, right? When you're parallel parking in a tight space, where's all your stuff about your spiritual struggle? You don't have the bandwidth to deal with it then, right? Or people say, oh, I've got a broken heart. This girl broke up with me, or this guy broke up with me, or right? Oh, I'm walking around with this broken heart all the time. No, you're not, right? When you're doing your taxes, figuring out your Schedule A, you don't have the bandwidth. You forget to, but then when you pick it up again, because what all this stuff is made up out of is thoughts. Thoughts are just made out of air. They have no substance. But part of the trick here is that when you pick it up, when you pick up the cluster of thoughts again, oh, this and that and this struggle and and that defines me as a spiritual person, or defines me as the member of this family, or whatever it is. Part of that cluster of thoughts, when you pick it up, is the thought, and this is here all the time. Right? And it's not. It's only there when you pick it up. But part of what you pick up is the thought, oh, it's here all the time, even when I don't pick it up. And when you see that trick, right, that helps you also to see through the whole thing. Once you've caught the magician pulling the dove out of his sleeve, right? Even if you see it once, you pretty much stop being fooled by the whole act. Then you don't even have to figure out the specifics of all the other tricks. You know they're tricks. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Makes me so happy to get a report like this. Really, it's just the best. Now, hey, this stuff works. I've not been just selling people a bill of goods all this time. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that I think that it's this, and to me, it also seems like I've had a deep desire for clarity, and I've prayed a lot. I mean, when you're in the struggle,
yeah,
that's all it feels like you can do, because you feel like everything else is hopeless.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I think that, and this goes for anyone that is in that sort of deep struggle, is the least you can do, just do that. And I feel like that's what's also brought me here is, and everything I'm looking at, and as well as this meditation. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, that it's brilliant. It's just such a useful kind of principle of guidance, in all these things that come up. Okay, there's this one and there's this one. Try the one that is less. Try the one that's less doing. And what happens, what I find more and more, is that it becomes on a very subtle level. It becomes what we call intuitive, but I'm not crazy about that word intuitive, because it sounds like a little bit woo-woo, a little bit like something qualitatively different, and it's not. It's just the same process on a subtler level, quieter level. Like what I'll often, Tejas, I see so much of my young self in you. right? The spiritual struggle and and just approaching it in such a cerebral way, and having to, going through a lot of that before, kind of realizing don't have to work that hard. And, but one thing, so what I used to have to do a lot was when there was a decision to be made, just think, okay, there's, it's door one or door two. And think about door one. Think about door two. Try to figure it out, weigh it, right? And then once you go through one door or the other, things wind up to be different from the whole way you were calculating it anyway, right? Right.
Yeah.
Turns out you were wrong. You were wrong about both doors. Right? So more and more, what I find now in making decisions is that I can do a certain amount of thinking, but once I do a little bit of thinking, it's like feeling it out. And one of the doors, there'll be a different texture between the feeling of what's behind the one door and what's behind the other. Even though I can't see it, it's more like I can feel it. I don't know if this will ring a bell for other people. Like going one way feels more like dense, like resistant, and the other way feels more like open, more like space. Is that ringing a bell for other people? I'm trying to think what to compare it to. Yeah, it's just like density. It feels like it's like when I put my attention on one thing and not thinking, or not. I mean, the thoughts may be there, but not engaging the thoughts. Just putting attention there. Like if you think, like right now, put your attention on the dark side of the moon. That's a good one because we can't think about it. We don't know what it looks like, right? The other, what we call the dark side of the moon. It's not. It's just always turned away from us, right? So we don't know what it looks like unless you've seen photos of it. But we can put our attention on it, right? Now put your attention on, maybe you've got a decision, two different things. Like, okay, should I get together with this person on Saturday or should I do that thing on Saturday? Just anything. And when you put your attention on one, it feels more like openness, more like space, more like, you know what it is? This is what I think is the metaphor, the Red Sea parting for Moses and the children of Israel, right? The Red Sea parts. And then the other way it feels like, the sea closes up. It feels more, what's the word? What's the word when you get too much like plaque in your arteries? What's the word?
Clogged.
Clogged.
Something. Yeah, let's go with clogged. So one way feels more clogged, one way feels more open, just like the kind of the energy around the situation. So this is something you may find useful, that maybe you've not noticed it before. I'm talking to everyone here. That maybe look out for this. Look out and actually remind me in a couple of weeks. Before I forget, I'm taking the next 2 weeks off. It'll all be in the newsletter, the exact dates. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but basically the next 2 weeks I'm taking off. We won't be meeting. So if you want to do some meditation with the group, just go to the YouTube channel, and I got a million of these archived now. So over the next couple of weeks, here's some good homework for you. As you go when you've got a decision, when you get right, just feel, does one way feel, and it's a very kind of subtle putting out your feelers. One way feels more clogged, one way feels more open. See what you got. Great. Thank you so much, Tejas. Good. What else? Anything else tonight? Oh, you know what? One other thing, and this is coming back to Tejas, to your whole beautiful report. And this is something, Lynn, I was talking about this last night in choir practice, when Janaka asked about that Lord Shiva mantra, right? Why is Lord Shiva, the god of destruction or dissolution, also the Lord of enlightenment? Okay, and I said a little bit about that last night, but that's not a group of meditators like what we have here. Now, in the context of what Tejas was saying, can you see kind of the deeper? Can you all see the deeper level of that? That, okay, what does enlightenment consist of? It's not something we build up. It's the seeing through, the dissolving of the insubstantial stuff that we were dreaming that was causing all this unnecessary suffering. So that, I mean, there's never, this deep stuff that's been around for thousands of years, why is Lord Shiva the Lord of Enlightenment? There's never any one sentence explanation. There's always deeper and deeper levels. But to me, this is a deep level of it. Right? And people so much think of, enlightenment, or they may not use that word enlightenment, but getting the truth, getting to the, successfully concluding their spiritual path. They think of it as a thing I'm going to build up if I read enough books, if I visit enough teachers, and all of that may have value. You may read the right book. You get, but usually it's going to be from usually hearing one phrase that ignites a bunch of destruction for you. Like for me, addiction to intensity. All right. There's a great thing that Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj said. I know some of you are familiar. If you're not, this is a teacher you may want to check out at some point. Great 20th century sage, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. If you want to look up some of his quotes, you can find quotes of his online. Just remember Nisargadatta, 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 just like it sounds. Nisargadatta, Nisargadatta. You may want to look up some of his quotes. If you just Google Nisargadatta quotes, you'll find a bunch of them. And if they don't compute for you right now, great, forget about it. But you may find one of those there, or a couple of them that are, ignition for you. And one of my favorite things that he said was, don't try to understand. It's enough that you don't misunderstand. Right? And can you hear that, like in the context of everything Tejas was saying? Right? We don't have to create this right understanding. We just have to see our wrong understanding that we've been burdening ourselves with, and then we see through it and we let it go. Don't try to understand. It's enough that you don't misunderstand. Yeah, it's really brilliant. Okay.
Dean, something reminded me when you were talking about building up enlightenment, actually clearing it out. I remember when I first started getting into minimalism, maybe some of you guys have watched videos on it and whatnot, but it actually starts feeling better to like not have objects and give away objects and release objects than it does to accumulate them. And that always reminds me a little bit of enlightenment.
Yeah. I'm on my last couple of days of working on this book that I've been working on for a couple of years. And one of the chapters is on Thoreau and Walden. He's the guy. You want to know about minimal, his whole project was, okay, what's this? How can I that's the great Thoreau quote, simplify, simplify, simplify. And he tells a story, and at the same time he laughs at himself. Sometimes I think people misunderstand Thoreau by not getting the joke by taking it, but he gets the joke. Like he tells the story about in his little cabin. He says, I had 3 pieces of limestone sitting on my desk. And then I realized that I needed to dust them every day when my mind was still undusted. So in horror, I threw them out the window. Right. So he's kind of making fun of himself, you know. It's like, you know, the because he was, you'll read all about this in my book, but he was literally the first person in North America to really try to be a serious Dharma practitioner. To really, he was one of the very first, you know, he got, you know, the texts from the East, the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, were just starting to be available in English for the first time. And Emerson had moved to Concord, Mass, and had this wonderful personal library, and Thoreau started borrowing the books from Emerson. But he took it a step further than Emerson said, you know, I don't want to just read about this, I want to do it. Right? And let me go out in the woods and try to, like, you know, be a sadhu, be a, you know, just live with the simplest possible life. Let me read, in fact, while we're at it, let me read you something, a quote from Walden that's going to be in my book.
And the thing is, it's even simpler than that.
Yes.
He didn't have to go into the woods.
That's right. Now you're talking. Now you're talking, my friend.
Because of course, that speaks to me, because, you know, that's something, a sort of fantasy I've had, is maybe I'll run away to India and get lost in the jungle, and then I'll, you know, have this special place and in the cosmos, because I will have learned, and, you know, all this
that'll do
goes
it.
on and on. Yeah.
That'll do it.
You don't need any of that.
Amen. Amen.
Forget it all.
I mean, sometimes to a certain degree, you have to go into the woods to find out that you don't have to go into the woods.
That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to burn it up. And in fact, in my chapter, it's my chapter on Thoreau and Emerson and their friends, the Transcendentalists. So Margaret Fuller and Bronson Alcott and these other characters. What a group of characters, man! Oh man. But for me, the story starts off. The chapter starts off with my own story, where after a year of college, this is June of '67, I dropped out basically to be a sadhu. I dropped out of college. I dropped out of plans. I dropped out of everything. I lived down the road. I was hitchhiking around the country. I was riding freight trains with the hobos. I, you know, just had a little canvas bag on my back and I said, with a jar of peanut butter, some carrots, a jar of Dr. Bronner's liquid soap with all the tiny print on the label, and 2 books, the Tao Te Ching and Walden. All right. And I tell the story, and I tell, you know, Thoreau's story about throwing away the 3 pieces of limestone, and then I tell my own story. I started off. I had 2 pairs of shoes. I had a pair of Keds and a pair of these. They don't make them anymore, but used to be able to get them here in L.A. They were called Fairchilds. They were these hand sewn soft leather moccasins. Right. And one day, you know, from reading so much of Walden, one day I went, wait a minute, I've got 4 shoes, but I only have 2 feet. So I took the Fairchilds and I put them very neatly by the shoulder of the road and said, okay, I'm going to leave these here for the next person who comes along who has size 10 feet. And let me just say, I wish I had those moccasins today, because you can't get them anymore, and they were really nice. But see, that was a good teaching for me. Good. Okay, so May all beings swiftly realize the teachings of Sri Guru Tejas here, which is it's simpler than that. Whatever you think, it's simpler than that, simpler than that, simpler than that. Whatever you think, it's simpler than that, simpler, simpler than that. What a relief. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you, Dean. Have a nice trip, vacation, wherever you go.
Thank
and
you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Be
Yeah,
safe.
you bet. You bet.
Good luck with the book.
Thank you. Yeah, goes in on Sunday, August 1st.
Congrats.
It's got to go in the mail. I gotta let that puppy go.
And we'll wait for you to come to a Diesel bookstore to present it one day.
To Diesel. Yeah.
I miss those. I miss those things.
Were you in my last my last book
Diesel,
launch at Diesel? Yeah.
Diesel,
Yeah.
couple years ago now.
Yeah, that
year
was
and a half ago.
2018. Yeah.
Oh, 3
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Time
Okay.
flies. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy being.